Frugalcrafter. Today I'm going to do a pen and ink picture of a chickadee, and I'm using a dip pen, which is something I have not used in quite a while. I'm using a photo from the website Paint My Photo. This photo is by Rodney Campbell, and I'll put a link in the video description so that anybody that wants it can get it. I'm just using a speedball dip pen, and the reason I'm using this as opposed to a like a mechanical pen, like a Micron or something, is because I want kind of a looser look. And if I get a splotch of ink, I'm totally good with that. That's kind of what I want. I want that kind of like loose, kind of carefree look. And you know, I'm definitely not going to be too picky about this because I haven't worked in pen and ink in quite a while, and obviously my technique is a little lacking. And I got a few different pens to pick from here, and I don't know how to use any of them any better than any others. I'm just thinking maybe for different line widths I'll go with different ones. I'm using India ink, and I'm going to be doing a watercolor wash with some paints that are new to me. They're the Grumbacher Select Transparent watercolor pans, and we're going to take a look at them. I've swatched them out, and I'll share those swatches and my findings with you after I've got the ink done. I sketched it on with a pencil before I began because I wanted to make sure that I had a good idea of where my drawing was going to go. And I didn't want to be fussy with the ink, so I figured if I had the pencil lines there kind of as a guide, then I wouldn't worry so much about the ink. Now, something I do want to try, actually, because this is going to be water resistant, or it's going to be waterproof after it's dry, but until then, I mean, I can actually pull the ink around a little bit, so I think I would like to play with that aspect a little bit. I wouldn't do this with my best watercolor brushes. These are just some inexpensive Princeton's that I got at AC Moore quite a while ago, but I figured it'd be kind of fun just to get that kind of ink flowing, get that looser look. Excuse my shakiness. I've had too much coffee today. And I'm wondering what happens if I was to wet an area. Oh, well, there we go. That's way too much ink on the center of that. For a chickadee, chickadee's bellies are kind of ochre. I'm just going to press that. I'm not going to worry about it, though. That's the thing about art, you know, you just gotta go with the flow sometimes. But I'm wondering what happens if I have, like, a wet area, and then I, like, do a little pen and ink right up to it. Let's see. We'll probably get more than I want for ink, but... Oh, I like the way that looks, though. I don't know about you, but I like it because it gives me kind of like a shadow. I'm going to try that technique with the pine cone here. I live in Maine, and the state bird is the black-capped chickadee, and the state flower is the white pine and tassel, and also our state tree is the pine tree. We're known as the pine tree state, and also vacation land. Fun facts there for you. Actually, it is a great place to vacation. Though I kind of hate to tell people that because we get so many tourists in the summer that it's kind of like, maybe we should keep that a secret and stop broadcasting it. But hey, I can't help it. I can't. It's so nice. I couldn't tell anyone not to come because it is so nice here in the summer. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of putting wiggly, jittery lines in here, which really helps if you've had too much coffee, I gotta say. I was just, got the new Jerry's Artorama catalog today, and I was just sitting on the couch, looking at all the pretty things, and thinking, I got that, I should use that stuff. Instead of fawning over things I don't have yet, it's like, you know what, Lindsay, you've got a lot of the things that are in this catalog, you're gonna get cracking there. And I got some pine branches. Actually, though, before I go into the pine branches, I think I do want to kind of add a little water underneath where I just put some pen to get a little shading in there. Might as well kill two birds with one stone, right? I'm going to show you how those Grumbachers mix too, because I know some of you guys have them because I used them on my magnolia painting the other day, and I'll probably use them on the live stream this Friday when I do the magnolia. And some of you guys said you had them. I don't know if you bought them because I mentioned that's what I used on that tutorial, but if that's the case, I really want to get this out just in case anyone's thinking maybe they should get those in addition to what they have. you know, I like people to know whether it's just going to duplicate something they already have, or if it is something going to do something new and add to their stash. Because, you know, I mean, there's so many similar products out there that you don't need to have them all. And a lot of them will do the same thing. So I just want to make sure that if somebody's out buying that paint because I said I used it. I'm sorry I'm talking so much. I know I'm going to get grief about that in the comments. They're like, Lindsay, just play some music or something. Stop talking. Got this cute little tuft of tassels this bird is just perched on. I just want this to be fairly loose. I tend to do better with these, the nibs that go into the thicker handles versus the nibs that go into the thinner handles. I'm not sure why. It just seems to be, maybe I just have better nibs that go into the big ones, but they're both Speedball brand, I think, so I don't know. And I'm not, you know, I'm looking at my collection of nibs. I'll show you here. I got this, oh my gosh, it's so dusty. I'm kind of embarrassed to show you. But I got this, this from a junk shop, an antique shop, for like $5 or $10, and it's for inkwells. My inkwells, of course, too big to put in here, but I just keep all my nibs in there, and I can lay my pens across there to rest. And actually, it was just in my basement. I haven't used it forever. That's why it's so covered in dust. Probably should have cleaned that before I turned the camera on. But you know what? We're all friends here. You know what? You can come visit my house when it's a mess. I don't care. I hope you don't care. I'll try to point the camera away from the mess. We'll just do that. We'll pretend it's nice and tidy. That works, right? Sorry I'm talking so much. I really need to lay off the caffeine before I do videos. Alright, and also I love the, I love ink spots, so I want to do a little bit of that in there too, just because it's a pen and ink, and I think it looks fun. I wouldn't do this wearing your favorite sweater or anything, because you probably get it where you don't want it. Okay, and I think I might want to just coax some of that ink around a little bit, just maybe with a little water. I don't know. I think it's fun. You just put I like to just go in with some clear water and then just let it touch into the edge of a ink spot and let it go. What do you see in the ink spots, guys? Tell your personality right there. Of course I can't. I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I always think it's funny, those Rorschach tests. Alright, I like the way that looks. And I'm just going to gently blot some of this just to help it dry a little quicker. And I think I'll just set this aside and we'll talk about the paints a little bit. Well, I'm not going to set it aside. I will cap up my ink before I have a tragedy. And honestly, I gotta say, I'm not 100% sure how you're supposed to clean these nibs. What I do is rinse them and blot them. So I don't know if that's right or not. If you guys want to chime in the comments below, I don't do a lot of pen and ink work. That's usually what I do though, but then I'm worried about, like, is that going to make them rust? I don't know. They're probably made out of rust-proof stuff, but I don't know. So let me know in the comments below. Maybe it doesn't do anything. Maybe you don't need to clean them at all. Maybe you just need to give them a wipe and call it good. I don't know. Please educate me. Help me out. So the Grumbacher set, this is what it looks like. And the thing I like about it is that it has the letters, the words printed down there. I don't know how long you'll be able to read them before they're completely caked in color, but you'd at least probably have a chance to memorize them before then. Now the paints feel kind of chalky. So like if you have the Gansai Tambay paints, you know how they feel kind of creamy. These feel almost like you've got a stick of chalk you're trying to paint from, almost like a tempera. And the other neat thing is that these come out, so I reckon you can probably buy replacements for that, which is nice. I swatched them out. They don't flow as well as some other paints, but this is the colors you get in the set of 12. And here is just a little mixing I did with them. So what I did here was, there's only one real yellow, this is a yellow, so then I took a little yellow ochre and mixed it with a vermilion. Didn't get a very good orange, but when I took the regular just plain yellow and mixed it with vermilion, I got a nice yellow. The yellow and the Prussian blue, they made kind of a dull green, but when I took when I took the blue green and added some yellow to it, I got a really lively green there that was really pretty. The ultramarine and the carmine made a lovely purple. If I added those two colors with the violet that was in the palette, I got even a more vibrant purple. You got some nice granulation in there that I like. And over here I took the the burnt sienna, the raw umber, and the black, and then I added some other colors to them. I added some violet into the raw umber, I added some ultramarine blue into the burnt sienna, and I also did the violet and the ultramarine blue into the black, just to see if I could get more of a, like a Prussian blue looking. So I did get some interesting neutrals there. That's going to be a great pine green, actually. And, you know, I just like to do that to kind of get an idea of the feel for the paint and how strong it is. It actually was stronger than I thought it was going to be, because when I used this on the Magnolia painting, I kept the colors very subtle. So I was pleased that they came out this bright. They honestly, though, feel kind of more like a children's grade paint than like a student or an artist grade paint. So just kind of keep that in mind. For what it's worth, I mean, those are just my findings. Now I'm going to dry this a little bit. I don't necessarily have to have it all dry, but I do want the majority of it dry. I'd like to do a kind of a little sky background, because the painting, the photo I'm working from is a lovely sky. So I'm going to pause it, finish drying this, and we'll be right back. Something else you can do after you dry it is you can go in and erase any of the pencil lines that have left behind if they bother you. They usually don't bother me, but if you want to go in and clean it up anywhere, now is the time to do it. Generally I use like a soft vinyl eraser, but I don't see mine handy, so I'm going to just use this kneaded eraser and just kind of be careful with it. Generally with a kneaded eraser you have to press and lift. I'm kind of rubbing a little bit, just because otherwise I don't think I'm going to get those pencil lines up. Okay, so I want to get some lovely sky colors, and I'm going to use a big flat brush, and I'm going to just kind of wet the sky, and I can see that not all of my paint was dry over there, and it's bleeding a little bit, I mean my ink, but I'm not really worried about that. I don't care if that color gets in. I think it's kind of charming. It just shows you that it's like a really quick ink wash pen and ink, and that's something I like. I want to make sure I go over all of my pine needles though, because you'd see the sky through there. So I really want to make sure that that is visible. And I can even go over the pine cone a little bit, because that's going to be with the browns, it's going to be pretty dark. So, ooh, I really got some ink that time. I think it was on the tape. I am going to blot that. This is like chaos pen and ink. Oh well. Okay, so I want to have a little bit of ultramarine blue. I'm just going to grab that right on my palette, and I want it super, super faint. So I'm just getting a little bit and just kind of working it out on the palette. So that's kind of how I keep from getting too much. I'm not going to put a ton down. It's going to dry a little bit later because it is watercolor. And I also just don't want to disturb any ink that might not be fully set. If you do get ink on your brush, don't fret, just go and rinse it and blot it. Like here, I'm just going to kind of tap that in there. I want a little bit of yellow ochre, because I know that won't make green if it kind of comes in contact with the blue. It just kind of make a gray, because it's they're both so kind of earthy, sedimentary colors. Just dabbing that on there. So I'm going to keep these colors out, because any of those colors will be fair game. Now I've got a puddle there, so what I'm going to do is just drink it up with my paper towel. This is really lightweight paper. This is just what I use for practice a lot of time. It's a 90-pound Aquabee. It was very inexpensive. It's still 100% cotton, so if I end up with a masterpiece, I'll be totally fine to frame it and sell it. You know, I might need to iron it or something to make it flat if it buckles a little bit, but generally this size, this is pretty small. I don't have to worry about it too much. But it's, you know, since I went with a lighter weight, it's cheaper, but I still have the same quality of paper. It's just not as thick. So, you know, for the finished artwork, it's not going to matter at all. I'm going to take a little bit of crimson, and again, I'm just tapping it out on my palette so that it's not super strong, and I'm just going to dab some in over where I have my yellow ochre, just to kind of get like some hazy sunset clouds in there. If you're getting a lot of mark from your ink, just go ahead and blot. I probably could have let that dry a little bit more, but I'm not going to fuss. I'm not going to worry about it. And it will dry a little bit later, so keep that in mind. Do a little bit over here. And I'm just going to scooch some of that ink back over there, get it out of the way. Swipe it right away. Okay, now on the bird, I'm going to go back to the round brush, and I am going to kind of wet the chest area, wet the white area up there. Seems like our ink is nice and dry there. I think I purposely made sure I dried the bird. And I'm going to take a little yellow ochre, and I'm going to add that into these tufts up here and down here and just let it flow. And if a little gets in the background, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. And then I'm going to grab a little burnt sienna, tap it on my palette. I don't want that to be super strong. Add a little bit of that and down here towards the bottom, kind of over where the ink area is. And then grab a little of the ultramarine blue, add it to the burnt sienna. It's going to make a nice gray. And I'm just going to throw this in over here. Maybe a little bit more on the blue side just so that it's got a little color in it. And I can add some of that in here too. And let's see, I think I want a little bit more dark in the cap. So I don't like to use black, so again I'm going to take the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna pretty thickly. Now the nice thing about these pans, because they are such a dry paint, that if I go in with a dirty brush, I'm going to be able to just wipe any of the extra paint off of the wrong color easily with a wet brush afterwards, so I don't have to worry so much about contaminating the color like you do if it's like a very moist paint. I feel like that needs a little bit more blue because it's very warm looking. I'm gonna give you a little bit of that in the tail too, and maybe just a touch up there. I like colorful darks. Alright, so now for the pine cone, I'm going to go ahead, just grab a little bit more of that burnt sienna, and I am going to add it right into that same puddle that I had mixed for the dark on the chickadee, on the like the head and the darker areas. And I'm just going to go ahead and add some of that in there. Now now you can see here, this is something else I wanted to show. Hopefully it's not too shiny and you can see that. I don't think it's too shiny right in this. You can see it's covering over the ink quite a bit. So these colors, even though they say they're transparent and they offer an opaque and a transparent version, and this is the transparent one, it still is fairly opaque. So it's much more like a tempera than, or a gouache. Even. I would call it more like a tempera because gouache tends to be more opaque and more pigmented. This definitely reminds you of like a kid's, like a child grade tempera paint. But I don't want to call it child grade just because I don't know about the, you know what, I should check on that. Grumbacher's really good about having safety ratings and stuff. So, I mean, I don't know if these are okay for young kids or not, but it definitely feels more like a children's paint. Now I'm going to blot this up just because I want some texture on these because, pine cones are really rough and bumpy, and I just want a little texture. So I'm just going to kind of tap it a few times and leave it be. So now I get that lovely texture. And now I'm going to hit this with the heat tool a little bit because I want to dry the pine cone area so that I can paint the pine cone, the pine needles rather. So I'm going to pause it again and get drying here. And we can go ahead and mix some greens. I'm going to go ahead and grab, some ultramarine. I want to have some really, not really vibrant needles because pine needles are not vibrant. So I'm going to take some ultramarine blue. I'm going to take some of this blue-green. You can see I kind of have to work to get the paint out. That's another reason I'm using these cheaper brushes because I know they can handle it and I'm not going to be damaging any really nice ones. So you do have to work a bit to get that color out. I'm going to grab a little of the yellow. And again, don't worry if you get a little color on there if you have this paint because it's going to, it'll wipe right off because you're not getting into all of the paint underneath, the big storage of paint. You're just getting the stuff on the top. I'm going to get a little yellow ochre. So these are, let's see, we've used the yellow ochre, we've used the ultramarine blue. So we're adding the green and the bright yellow, but I can mix and I can get some really great colors just with these. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Maybe if I turn my palette like that, you can actually see some of that. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm going to flick up. I'm going to try to keep my arm out of the view so you can just see my brush, but I'm flicking. I'm just going to flick. Okay, I have my brush at a fairly 90-degree angle. I'm just kind of trying to lean out of the way so you can see. Generally my wrist though would be right over my brush, so like you wouldn't be able to see because my wrist would be right on top of my brush, and that's typically how I hold it and how I recommend you hold it if you're just at home not doing a video. So just, and I'm trying to hold it at a little bit of an angle, but if you're at an angle like I am, my blades are going to be a little bit thicker. So just keep that in mind. Adding a little more blue, and I'm varying it. I'm picking up a different green each time. You do have to add water to these a lot because they are a very dry paint. And you know what? I actually go in and I spray my palette before I begin, and that helps me get a really nice, it helps my paint kind of be juicy and ready to go when I'm ready to paint. So there's a quick tip for you. Actually, you know, that's a good tip anytime you have paint that doesn't seem to want to release too well. Like if I, you know, just before you start painting for the day, a couple minutes before you sit down to paint, just go ahead and give it just a light mist. Sometimes I'll just mist the colors I'm using. Sometimes I'll mist the whole palette. Generally, it'll be fairly dry by the time you're ready to pack up for the day, so it shouldn't do any harm. Do my more golden ones over here by the tips of the ends, where the ends of the branch where the pine tree's needles would be a little bit older, a little bit more brittle. They'd be a little yellower, less vibrant. A bit of that blue green. So it's funny because the mixed colors on here, like your tertiary colors, don't seem like they're mixed from the same colors that are on the palette, which is actually kind of nice because it gives you that range. It seems like the pigments are different. I'm not sure on light fastness on these. Like I mentioned, they do feel an awful lot like a kid's grade paint, but you know what? I am all about using what you have. And I think it's, you know, the materials do not make the artist. I kind of got into a little discussion with that in a class the other day. The materials don't make the artist makes the artists. You know, you'll have people painting with, you know, clay from the ground and making beautiful work. You gotta paint. You wanna learn how to paint, you gotta paint. No amount of watching videos is gonna do it. You gotta pick up the brush and give it a try. Adding a little burnt sienna in there because I feel like I want a little shadow here and there. Just to bring out the depth, kind of it gives it a little branch in there too, which is nice. Like we need our little chickadees gotta have a place to perch, right? And I'm just looking at the pine cone again. I feel like I want to warm that up a little bit. Maybe just a little bit of burnt sienna on its own, on a few of the little, what do you call them? Are they petals on a pine cone? What do you think those things are called? I don't know. You guys always know. I always ask you guys, and you're like, oh, those are called fancy blah blah Italian name, Latin thingies, or you'll have, I know you'll tell me what they are. Somebody will. This guy that took the picture, Rodney Campbell, has a lot of gorgeous, gorgeous bird paintings in his album on Paint My Photo. Highly recommend you go and take a gander. Actually, there's so many talented painters, and photographers. A wonderful community. I wish I had more time to spend over there because the people are lovely, and I just think it's so awesome that everybody shares their photographs so freely. Well, that does it. I'll wait till after the camera's off to sign my name because I'm awfully bad at that. And I'm just going to remove the tape because I always love that nice white border. Just be careful if your painting is wet to let it dry first if it's wet near the edges of the tape because it will rip your paper in a lot of cases. I mean, this is a pretty strong paper. As I mentioned, it's Aquabee. It's 100% cotton. Look, as I said that, I ripped a little bit of my paper because the tape was wet. The paper was wet there. I also find by pulling it at a really sharp angle away from itself, it's less likely to tear. So just file that knowledge away, and there you have it. There is the fun, quick little chickadee. I hope you try it, and that will get a little more transparent as it dries, also probably a tiny bit lighter. But you can find the final painting on the YouTube thumbnail and also on my website, thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com, in a couple of days. And I'll put a link to the photo that I used in the video description so you can find it too. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And until next time, happy crafting.